So the OG XT1, which I got right here, my favorite camera. Why? It gives me the feeling of an old school camera, and compared to my past experience with Canon cameras, you know, I had the Canon 5D Mark II, had the Canon 7D original, I had the Canon M50, the M5, the M6. So I had the M series and I had two of the DSLRs. Actually, I also had the SL2. So I had the SL2. So yeah, I had a lot of cameras over the years. But just the feeling that I'm using a real camera with the dials and buttons. You know, you hear that a lot with Fuji users. I'm no different. But this, and to tell you the truth, this is my second time owning it, because this, when I first got it, the first time, I was still using Canon cameras. So this was the only Fuji I had amongst all of those Canons. And I tried to adapt lenses to it with Viltrox adapters and all that. And the only native lens I had was the 18-55, which is a great lens, by the way. But I just felt that I wanted just to have one ecosystem. And so at that point, even though I loved the camera, I tried to make a decision, and I stuck with Canon and started to migrate over from the DSLRs to the M series cameras, the M50, the M5, the M6. That was like my mirrorless trio, and I adapted the Canon EF lenses. But it just didn't work out. I didn't like, ultimately, it lacked professionalism to me to use those M series. So as I grew, I said, you know, I started realizing the things I really needed. What I needed was a camera that could be my personal camera, but also a professional camera at the same time. So from the professional side, from photography and video standpoint, I wanted something that I could boost the battery and have battery grip so I could shoot, you know, longer. Since I didn't have the 5D Mark II anymore or the 7D anymore, all I had was the mirrorless M series, you know, Canon cameras, and they didn't have the ability to do that. And I didn't want to go back to DSLRs. So I started looking into, you know, so I sold, for one, let's go back. I sold the XT1 thinking I would be able to use those cameras professionally, and just ultimately it just didn't give me the magic that I wanted, the user experience. That matters in photography, especially if you're an enthusiast, you know, like myself, you know, professional. You want that experience to be good because it delivers better photos, you know. So I regretted selling the XT1. And so what did I do? I bought it back again. So this is the second time I owned it. This is my second version of it. And once I started shooting with it, I've had the battery grip both times. So I still have it. I like the fact that I could boost the battery. The battery life on the one battery isn't so great, no different than the M series Canons. So I put the second battery in, boosted it up, you know, and it worked perfectly. And then I started getting lenses for it. I got the Viltrox lenses, which I like, you know, and it just gives me a better shooting experience. The quality of the photos are so good. Even though it's 16 megapixels, don't let that hold you back. This is a good camera. The 16 megapixels and the X-Trans 2 sensor just give you this organic feeling. You can shoot up to 6400 no problem, especially if you control, you know, all the other settings, and you know what you're doing. You're gonna get great results, and it just gives you, it's well built. The shooting experience is nice. Even the sound of the shutter is good. The customizable buttons. Let's talk about that. One thing that Canon could never, ever, ever do on any of those cameras I had was be customizable. I can never change the buttons to do something else, to be more convenient. Nothing. Just couldn't do it. On this, you can. You can change all the settings to get any button. You know, most of these buttons can be changed to do whatever it is that you want. And that's what I love about it, because now that I have a lot of Fuji cameras and they're all in, you know, I'm in that ecosystem now, I can do that with all of them. and I love that experience. So that's what makes this camera just one of my favorites. It's my OG Fuji camera, and I'm not gonna sell it again. This time it's staying. I'm gonna use it till it breaks. It's it's great. Now, how does this stack up in comparison to the newer XT cameras? Well, what I like about this one, which people probably don't like, is that it's simpler. So it doesn't have the video is non. You don't even use the video. It's not even don't even talk about it. But that forces it to be a photography centric only camera, and so I use it in that way. So when I take it out, like my cameras are like cars. Like some people who have money, they collect cars, and different cars do different things for them that gives them a different feeling. I have that feeling with cameras. This camera is like, I want to go shoot photos only and be more minimalistic and simple, yet specific with my intent to use it, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what it does for me versus, say, my XS10, which is a hybrid camera. I can use good video, photography, touch screen, flippy screen, has all these bells and whistles, can feel a little bit too perfect in a way. It doesn't have character or nuance to it, whereas this has nuance. No video, no touch screen. I actually like not having a touch screen and just buttons and dials, and that's it. Shoot, get the raws, get the JPEGs, and that's it. You're not thinking about much else. And it's a little smaller than the other XTs. So the XT2, XT3, XT4, they've all got a little bigger over time. This kind of is still that sweet spot of being small, but not too small. Because if you compare it to, say, other cameras that you may want to shoot, say, street photography with, they may be like, say, the X Pro cameras. I like more of a DSLR style, to have that, eye viewfinder right down the middle of the lens, you know, but it's not really overly big. And because you can add a battery grip to it, you can make it bigger if you want it to be bigger. So it kind of, fits that sweet spot. And the battery grip on the XT1 is different than the other XTs because it doesn't have that extra grip on it and doesn't hold two batteries. It only holds one. So it's inherently smaller. So even though you can beef it up by adding the battery grip, it still doesn't make it overly big, but gives you a little bit better handling and better battery life. So ultimately, it's still pretty small because I debated getting like an XT10 back in the day, but the fact that I could add the battery grip to the XT1 to use it as a professional use camera, that kind of won it over for me. So, and it's still small enough without the battery grip that I'm okay with throwing that in the bag, because anything other than a pocket camera, you're going to throw it in the bag anyway. So this isn't all that big. So yeah, so this is my favorite OG camera. If you use it, let me know if you're still using it. What do you like about it, and what other cameras in the XT series are your favorites, or X series in general? I'm JMT. I'm out.